as well. So I'd be happy to share that when I receive that, and I'll make it part of my report as well. So good question, and I'll keep you posted on that. Thank you for asking.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Ralph?
Mr. A, this is Susie. I just wanted to say thank you to you and your staff for putting together the promotion and all the work that you're doing to get done. It'll be nice to be able to have them have that little ceremony and the awards as well on the 25th.
Sure.
Give the kids something positive to look forward to and a big difference from last year. So we appreciate you very much.
That was one of my biggest regrets, not being able to do that for those kids last year. And then just also, you know, I know Mr. Robertson had to go through this, but just the high school graduation ceremony, he did get that off and it went real well. But looking forward to this year's ceremony. So thank you for that support. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. A, I just want to say thank you for everything you guys are doing out there. And Dr. Lucas, is there any way that once those times come up that we could advertise for the possibility of all the board members being there? I'm going to try to make it if I can, but I just want to.
Yeah, we can do a possible notice of possible quorum. We'll put that in the paper. We'll get the date.
That's the word I was trying to find. Quorum.
Yeah, we sure will.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ralph? Okay, Scott at the high school.
All right, good evening, everyone. Yeah, it's getting toward the end of the year. It's kind of a brand new end of the year for me because it was a little different last year. So it's kind of new territory right now, but everything's run smooth. We'll be having our robing ceremony May 27th at 6:00 p.m. And of course, our graduation the following night on May 28th at 6:00 p.m. So we're excited about that. We're going to be in turquoise, so we're going to be able to have family members and guests there at the graduation. So that's exciting. And we're continuing with our tutoring at school. From 2:15 to 4. We're probably averaging about 10 students a day for tutoring, so that's nice. It has been a little bit busier last week and this week because our seniors maybe kind of mismanaged their time a little bit. So now we're trying to get everything in line and hopefully it works out for everyone. And we're still about 50% in person and 50% remote. So we're kind of sticking true to those numbers. Seems to be going well. Of course, this week is our seniors. They're taking their finals this week. So after this week, they'll be done. They won't be in school next week. And then next week, we'll do our finals for 9th through 11th graders. Get that taken care of. We're all finishing up our observations and frontline for our teachers and things. So that's another thing that was a little bit different from last year because we were kind of excused from them to a point. So getting that done. Teachers are still communicating with each other. They're attending webinars and our professional developments here at the provided by our district. And they're doing a lot of things on their own, and they're still continuing to try to find ways to make things better in the classroom. Like Mr. Almanzar was saying, it really has been a great learning experience, to be quite honest with you. And we've actually found a lot of different avenues of how to reach out to kids and parents, and we'll be able to utilize it for the future. So bad comes with the good, or good comes with the bad, however you want to look at it. One thing that I've been talking to students about and teachers, and it's probably because I had difficulties managing my time during this. Like I had time, but I had a hard time managing my time just because it wasn't a normal regular day where you're just busy all the time. It's been great since the kids have been back. I've been able to manage my time better because you're busy and you're just moving and everything's kind of normal. So that's one thing that we've been kind of talking about, to make sure that we kind of share our skills or share what we, what we learned this year from each other to, with our students. Because I know it's one of, that was one of the most difficult times with our students being online, was just, managing that time. And, with the students that did come back, it seems like the ones that were struggling are being more successful because, we're kind of helping them manage their time because they got to go class to class. So, I mean, even though they get online, but they're in class the whole class period, it's just a little different at home. So, that's one of those skills that I think we can take away and, improve on, throughout the rest of our students' stay there at Lordsburg High School. And that's about it at the high school. I'm just going to talk from Coach Hooper. He's at the track meet tonight. So I'm not saying he wasn't lucky that he couldn't be at the board meeting, but he, was able to get to the track meet instead of this board meeting, which I told him he's going to miss out and he shouldn't miss it. But anyway, I told him I'd take it for him. So just talk about sports. We, of course, we all know we were at the state basketball tournament and our girls did very well. And we're just all so proud of them. And it was exciting down to the last minute. So, we're proud of them. Baseball season, softball season, tracks kicked off. We've had I think 3 baseball games. We just had our first softball game last Saturday. We had our Richard Moore track meet, our 10th Richard Moore track meet last Thursday. And had about 6 or 7 schools and it went well. I mean, everything went without we had a little bit of trouble with the timing system, but other than that, the track meet went well. Sports are going well. We got fans coming to see us, and everything's just kind of moving in the right direction. It seems like it's kind of getting back to normal. So we're all excited. What's
Roberson?
that? Yes.
Mr. Roberson?
Yes. Yes. I'm having a hard time hearing you, so maybe you're having a hard time hearing me.
You're cutting out real bad, Susie.
Dr.
Yes, ma'am. We can't hear you. You're cutting out. I don't know. Maybe if you took your video off, it might help with your sound.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Scott.
Well, hey, I'm done. So
Okay.
We'll wrap it up. So if you have any questions, just let me know.
Okay. Thank you.
I may be out of line making this comment, but it is so incredible to hear the work that you guys are doing there. And, Mr. Roberson, I don't know you, but all of the things that you said just brought back so many wonderful memories of high school and being there. And as I heard Dr. Amador and everyone, I have to say that every single one of my teachers there had such a significant and positive impact on my life and helped me become who I am and my successes. And, Coach Moore was probably one of the most influential people in my life. And so honestly, thank you for all the hard work that you guys are doing and to hear, the preparation for college at such a young age. It's great to have parents really having these conversations early. And I'm so glad to see all the hard work you guys are doing to make our community better and give our kids a better chance. So thank you.
Susie, can you hear us?
Thank you, Olivia, for everything. Yes, I can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Olivia.
You're muted now, Dr. Lucas. You're muted.
Yeah. So Truancy Report. I got to remember to, normally I stay unmuted, but there's people in the office, so I keep muting. But Truancy Report, 189 parent contacts for truancy. May was the last month of classes, so it'll be the last report we get. It's down a little bit, or about the same as last month. So it's still better. It's quite a bit better than when we were just entirely remote. So it has improved some. Hopefully next year it will be even better when everything's back in full swing. Any questions on the truancy report?
No, sir. I hope it just continues to improve. It's important for our kids to get their education and especially be in school
Yes, ma'am.
with their teachers. So
Yes, ma'am.
improve. Okay. Next item is public forum. There was no public forum for today's meeting. The next item on the agenda is Board of Education issues. Item A, WNM Lucas.
Right. Edgar, did you want to go over that, or would you like me to?
Yes, sir. I could go ahead and do it.
Okay.
So I asked Dr. Lucas to add this item on the agenda for this evening. I believe, I truly feel that I'm speaking for the entire board when I say this, that it is really important to recognize our staff and our board members for pursuing a higher education and graduating with either their bachelor, master degree, or in their program of study. In my opinions, their actions have shown loyalty to our district, and it's a huge sense of pride in our community. So Ms. Platts, Ms. Mendoza, Ms. Diaz, Ms. Cole, Mr. Barrera, just want to say congratulations to all of you again. I'm very extremely happy for your guys' success and all of your guys' career accomplishments.
And we need to add Ms. Kwame.
Oh, Ms. Kwame, yes, Ms. Kwame, I'm sorry about that.
Right. And then Misha Diaz did not get her degree, but she did complete her program of study she was on her licensure. She completed all that coursework. So she's about halfway to a master's, but she's also completed her coursework for the program for teacher certification.
Dr. Lucas, also Mr. Alvarez at DTMS and Mr. Munoz, along with 3 others from different universities. So I have.
Okay. Did they get their degree as well?
They
or completed their coursework?
Mr. Alvarez completed coursework. He is now working on a master's program in educational leadership at
okay.
Western. And then also Mr. Munoz has completed his coursework and is looking towards doing the same thing.
Okay. Did we
well,
miss
even
anybody?
better that we have more people. That just that's amazing. They are such good role models for our students and our community.
Sure. Miss Pompeo also completed a master's in special ed at New Mexico State, and I have to put a plug in. Go Aggies. Secondly, let's see, I have Miss West did get a master's degree in educational leadership from Eastern New Mexico. And then finally, last but not least, Kristen Lopez, master's in special ed from Grand Canyon University. So congratulations to all of them.
Yes, sir. Any others? Any others that we might have missed? Scott, any others? No? Okay.
Well, thank you, Dr. Lucas, for giving me some time to bring them up and recognize them.
Yes, sir. You're quite welcome. Okay, next up, we have the awards, although, being in a virtual environment, it's kind of hard to present awards. But this is the Excellence in Student Achievement Award. And the New Mexico School Boards Association has announced recipients of the 2021 Excellence in Student Achievement Awards. The awards, sponsored by the New Mexico School Boards Association, are presented to an individual selected by local boards of education throughout New Mexico who have played an important role in improving student achievement in their local school district. 58 school boards participated in this year's program, and 219 award recipients were selected. Recipients are listed below and be honored at local school board meetings throughout New Mexico over the next few weeks. For specific information about award recipients, you can contact us. And so we'll start off with Olivia Pantoja. She's a Lordsburg advocate, and she's receiving the Excellence in Student Achievement Award recipient, or the Excellence in Student Achievement Award, and nominated by a couple of you. I think, Alyssa, you were first to nominate her, were you not?
Yes, sir, I was.
Okay, so if you want to say a little bit about that, and then we'll move on to the others.
Yeah, sure. So a parent had contacted me with the letter that you presented to her daughter, and I was very touched by it. I love when people reach out to our students. It just brings a lot of warmth to my heart, and I really do appreciate that, Olivia. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And we will, if you can email Ryan, and we'll get your information, and we'll get you that certificate in the mail this week. And we do appreciate your advocacy for our community in schools.
Thank you. It's really an honor, and I felt super that it was unnecessary because, you know, when I heard, you know, what this little girl, I honestly wish I knew her name, and I just knew that she wanted to be a chef, and she wanted to learn to cook so that she could help feed, so kids wouldn't be hungry. And I was really touched by that. I was more touched by her than anything. And I think it's true that, you know, there's something to be said about growing up in a community like Lordsburg. It always stays with you.
Yes,
and you know, it's just paying it forward because I have people who believed in me and inspired me. So whatever I can do to let people know that you can dream big regardless of where you come from, and anything is possible. So thank you guys for the honor.
And thank you. We do appreciate you. Okay, and then we also have several staff members, our maintenance and custodial staff. And Rosa, have their certificates been mailed to them?
No, sir, the plaques, they will be given out tomorrow if everybody can meet in the boardroom.
Oh, yes,
Take a
yes.
picture.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
So we have Abraham De La Garza, Baltazar Dominguez, David Flores, Alida Hernandez, Tereso Medina, George Philhauer, Tereso Rodela, and Francis Rosales. They will also be getting an award. So many thanks to them and the work they do. You know, oftentimes maintenance and custodial staff are often overlooked, but they are one of the backbones of the district. So we do appreciate all their hard work. Any questions on that?
No, sir, I just wanted to go ahead and thank them as well. Like you said, sometimes we don't think of them, but in all honesty, more than ever during this pandemic, their efforts are assisting in preventing any possible illness to the best of their abilities by keep cleaning and keeping our kids safe at school.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And then last item on the Board of Education is just a reminder, School Law Conference, June 3rd through 5th, 2021. If you want to go and you haven't notified, and it's virtual, but if you want to go and you have not notified Barb, please email her or myself, and we'll get your name in. But it is coming up here in a couple of weeks, and it's the annual School Law Conference.
Would that cover the registration part that Joe's been sending out? Because on there he's got a link to register for it, but if
Right,
contact
but normally we'll do for board members, you know, a PO or whatever the fee is. So if you let me or Barb know, and then we can register you and then send you the link.
Okay.
Or Barb may contact you back and give you instructions on what to do after we arrange payment.
Okay, sounds good, sir. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Susie, are you there?
Sir, I think she was having issues being able to hear. She did ask me if I could go ahead and take over until she's
Okay.
able to get back in.
Okay, perfect. And Susie, if you can hear me, you might try phoning in. Ryan, do we have a phone number you can put in chat for her to like try calling in?
Yeah, the number's listed at the bottom of the invite, so I can text that to her.
Okay, okay. Okay, Edgar. You ready to start with the consent agenda, Edgar?
Sorry about that. I think I was losing you guys as well.
Oh, that's all right. We're ready to start with the consent agenda whenever you're ready.
Hello?
Can you hear us? Uh-oh. Edgar?
Maybe it's the wind outside.
Maybe, is it picking up?
Yeah.
Okay. Because we got to get one of them back on.
We don't have a quorum anymore.
Right. Hopefully they're just logging back in. Susie, every now and then we can see you move and then it freezes. I don't know if you can hear me. Did you text Susie the phone number, Ryan?
Yeah, I sent it via email.
Okay. I would. Yeah. Edgar, can you hear us now? Can you hear us now, Edgar?
Yes, sir. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
Oh, that's all right. So we're ready
Okay.
to start with the consent agenda.
Okay. If anybody has any questions on the approval of accounts payable and payroll liability transactions. If not, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion, Edgar.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Edgar.
Thank you, Alyssa. Roll call. Mr. Barrera,
Aye.
Ms. Esquivel,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Next, approval of budget adjustment request.
Right, and we have a few of them today. So we have 5 budget adjustment requests. The first one in your list is from the CARES Act, and it's just reallocating $504, decreasing it by $504 so it can be added elsewhere. The second one is adjustment of $1 out of CARES Act instruction software and adding that dollar back into support services and general supplies. And on the next one, it's fairly lengthy. It's a total of $6,484. It's not an actual, it's just an adjustment request, so it's not really decreasing or anything out of our budget. It's just moving funds around to different accounts. And it's a total, takes 6,484 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different accounts and puts that same amount back into 3 different ones. And then the next one is food service is a decrease of $37,064. It's just the cost being remote. Even with what we did, we got less cost, so it was a reduction. And then the last one is a total of adding $6,437 to our operational fund, different salaries, compensation, supply assets, other contract services, software. So it's a total, if you look, it has the adjusted amount, and it's a total of $6,437. And it's an increased bar.
Thank you, Dr. Lucas. Do we have to approve each one individually, or
No, you can do them as presented. approve as presented.
Sounds good. I believe Susie just joined over the phone. Are you there, Susie?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I got
You're
back on
back.
the computer. Yes, I don't know what happened, but it's working now.
Okay.
I'll hand it over to you.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it, and I apologize for the confusion with the computer.
Yeah.
No
So
problem.
if I can get a motion to approve the budget adjustment request as presented to the board.
I'll make the
Susie,
motion.
I'll make the motion. Sorry. I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Gomez and seconded by Ms. Esquivel. Roll call, Mr. Barrera,
Aye.
Ms. Esquivel,
Aye.
Mr. Gomez,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Next item on the list is discussion items. Item A, discussion of 2021-2022 budget.
Okay. Brian, you or Eric want to start off with this?
I think I'll go ahead and take it if that's okay, and then I can.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is it okay if I share my screen?
Sure.
Okay. Oh, Ryan, do you need to let me or put me as a host? There we go. Okay, good. All right, can everyone see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Lucas. So we really tried hard to get the full-blown budget presentation ready for tonight's meeting, just being overly optimistic. But unfortunately, we're still tweaking some last-minute things in the budget. And for the most part, it's pretty much done. But we did want to kind of go over everything with the board in general. Susie's already kind of seen what I'm about to present at the budget committee meeting. But basically my goal is I want to go over the SEG formula, which is basically our operating revenue, talk about some of the changes, kind of compare it to the prior year, kind of show the increase and decrease on the various lines, talk about the projected revenue, projected expenditures, and then lastly, kind of go over some of the mandated changes that were passed in the legislature this year, and then kind of open it up to the board for some input as we are due to submit the budget to PED. I believe, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's the 25th, or that might be the date of the special board meeting, but I think it's due to the PED next week. And so at this point, I mean, it's pretty much done, and it's just a matter of finishing the forms and then kind of getting some input and trying our best to basically insert that, board input into the budget. And so with that, if there's any questions as I'm going, feel free to stop me. But basically what I should have on my screen is the 2021-2022 SEG tool. And basically what this is our operation funds. And so I'm going to kind of walk through this. For those of you that have already seen this, I apologize, but hopefully this will kind of give everyone an idea and an understanding of how the district receives its operating funds and the different factors that go into determining that amount. And so right off the bat, we have our kindergarten and our basic programs. And so this basically represents our pre-K, our kindergarten, grades 1 through 12. And what we have in this grade total column is basically the membership, or I should say the average membership, average being the 80-day and the 120-day. And that's ultimately what the state uses in determining our preliminary SEG for next year. And so I did have last year's here because I do want to point out, and this is one of the things that we'll talk about after I go through the 910B5, but I do want to point out, you can see our total membership of 433.5. That was the average 80-120 day. And if you compare that to last year's average 80-120 day, we lost about 33 kids, which is pretty consistent from what I'm seeing across all of our schools. And it's pretty much just in relation to COVID. There was a big decrease in enrollment just statewide. And so with that, you know, we're hoping that we get the bump up in enrollment next year and that kids come back. And there is a spot where we could budget for growth, but I do want to communicate, you know, we're not budgeting for any growth units. And I'll go over that in a little bit more detail when we get to that section. But the state applies a multiplier to each of the grade levels. And so each membership level is then multiplied by this multiplier. And ultimately what we end up at is this column called program units. And the program units are the most important because that's ultimately what gets multiplied by the unit value, which is set forth by the state and is ultimately what determines the total revenue received by the school district. And so with that, we can kind of come down. The next section is our staffing cost multiplier. And this consists of two different things. It used to be 100% T&E. And a couple of years ago, they passed or changed it to where they implemented this TCI, total cost index. And so every year, this T&E has slowly been phasing out. And this year we're at 0.25 or 25% T&E weighted and 75% weighted on TCI. And so next year, T&E should be completely gone and it'll be 100% TCI. So all of those things that everyone was just mentioning as far as everyone getting their degrees, I'm happy to hear that because ultimately, you know, that's where those types of changes affect our operating revenue. You know, the more education, the more higher education levels, it ultimately affects these factors. And one thing to keep in mind when you look at this is anytime there's a multiplier such as this, the multipliers by far have the largest impact on the bottom line because those things can really add up the units, the program units, by having these multipliers. And so that's what this section is. Next section we have is our special education. And so we do have our gifted, our SPED students, our pre-K SPED, our total SPED, and ultimately similar to the top, it's membership average 8120 day multiplied by the factors to get our program units. We do get some funding in our operational money that's specific to elementary fine arts and is really the 8120 day of our elementary students. And so there is some funding in the legislature that's set aside for financing the fine arts. Continuing on, we don't receive any funding for bilingual programs. We do receive funding for elementary PE. We don't have any national board certified teachers. We do have a size adjustment due to our geographic location. And so one thing to kind of keep in mind regarding this is this is also phasing out. And so for a small district like ours, is, you know, this does kind of weigh on our bottom line. The schools that are affected by this mainly in the state are charter schools or small schools. And there's been a lot of talk and a lot of attempts to try to get this kind of put back in. And so hopefully before this completely gets phased out, we'll see something in the legislature that might not take this out. But this small school size adjustment, you know, does contribute quite a bit of funds to the district. And so that has been phasing out at, I think, 20% a year. And so you can see we're at 40% now. So we got basically next year will be 20%, and then it'll be completely gone after that. And so every year it seems like they make a little bit of progress trying to get that put back, but you know, we'll see what happens. We do get a multiplier for the rural population at-risk units. This has a bunch of different factors, but basically contributes to our kind of like our Title I, and is also determined by the state and the legislature. There was a decrease in this, which I'll go over a little bit in more detail, but at-risk units, you can see multiplied gives us about 72.3 program units. And then here's the section I was talking about regarding growth. And so being conservative, you know, we don't like to budget for growth because if you don't get those growth units, then all of the money that the state would have given you in projecting that growth, basically they take back, and my experience with that is it's never a good idea to budget for growth. And so We balance the budget with no projected growth, and then hope and anticipate that we will get an increase in membership. And then ultimately, what you'll see, hopefully, is us presenting a increased bar due to that increase in growth. And so hopefully, you know, after our 40-day, if the students return and we get back to our normal numbers, you'll see these amounts go up. And so growth not only affects just this top line, but it flows through all of the different multipliers that we just talked about. And so, you know, we balance the budget conservatively with no growth units projected. And then when we do get those growth units, we'll have an increased bar to kind of bump that up to true us up to what we really are servicing as far as student membership. And so continuing on, you can see we did not participate in the ELT or the K5 Plus this year. And then the last thing is our unit value. And so this year they did increase the unit value to $4,770.70. And if I bring up last year's, you can see 47.58, but this was pre-COVID. And so if you will recall, in January, I believe January 2021, kind of as after a result of that special session, they decreased this unit value to 4,500, I believe. And so our unit value went up basically to where it was, you know, pre-COVID. And so that's one thing to keep in mind when you look at this unit value, is it is a preliminary number. It is used basically for planning. And in January of next year, January 2022, the state will then give us our final unit value. And that can go up, it can go down, but this is our preliminary unit value. And then ultimately, not until January of next year will we get that final unit value. And so at that time, you'll also see hopefully an increased bar, but possibly a decreased bar. Two other things to kind of point out that are kind of significant changes on the 910B5. You'll see this non-categorical revenue credits. In the past, the state would take 75% of our forest reserve money that we receive, which isn't a ton, but I mean, 75% of it would go to the state. And then also our tax levy cash receipts, they would also take a 75% credit for those revenues. That was changed this year in the legislature, you know, mainly focused on impact aid, which we don't receive. But in the current year, or I should say for fiscal year 22, there is no credit being taken by the state for those funds. And so we still will receive our tax levy revenue, our Forest Service revenue, and those will be separate awards, and we'll have bars to represent those revenues coming in. But in the past, you can kind of see here, for example, last year the state took $69,167 of our tax levy as a credit. And so, or actually I should say 51,000, they took 75% of that as a credit. So that's not the case in the fiscal year 22. And then the last thing I want to point out is they did, or I should say the governor passed the hold harmless. And the way that they determine the hold harmless is they look at our base SEG meaning not counting extended learning time or K5 plus, and then comparing that amount to the base SEG as of January 1st, 2021. So this is the base SEG after they decreased the unit value. And so if for any reason we were to be below that base SEG, we would be held harmless and then basically brought up to at least what our base SEG was January 1st, 2021. And so with the increases in unit value and even with the decrease in membership, you know, we still came out above that hold harmless amount. And so before I kind of go over some of the, you know, year over year comparisons, does anyone have any questions regarding the 910B5 or any of these numbers? So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense as far as all of the different inputs on how our operational revenue is calculated. Part of what we do in our budget is we have this massive Excel file, but we do like to compare 910B5 to 910B5. And so here, kind of similar to what we just went over, you'll see each row represents basically a different line in the 910B5 that we just went over. And so here we have our actual. And so what actual represents is our membership, not multiplied by any multipliers. And then here is our program units. And so this is basically that far right column for the prior year and for fiscal year, or I should say for the current year and for fiscal year 22. And then lastly, taking the year's unit value and multiplying the program units by that to really get a dollar figure for each of those lines. And so with that, you know, I do want to kind of go over this, and let me make sure I have, I believe this is the most recent. Yeah, it looks like it. I do want to go over the lines just so you can kind of see the changes. And so kindergarten, you know, we can see a decrease in membership, but because of the increase in the unit value, you know, this $5,500 basically represents how much more money we're getting compared to the prior year, or current year, I should say. Grades 1 through 12, the decrease in membership is ultimately what's contributing to this decrease in funding of $42,000. Our T&E and TCI, this is actually really good because this conversion from T&E to TCI, most schools end up losing funding on this conversion. But given the news that everyone talked about with everyone getting their education, and so this should continue to improve. And so ultimately, even with the T&E phasing out, we did get an extra $32,265 next year compared to the current year. Our gifted students gave us a little bit additional funding. SPED decreased, and it looks like it's really related to just the decrease in enrollment on that one. Pre-K SPED, a little bit of an increase. I guess, you know, the only big ones that we can really show is the rural population gave us a nice little boost. And then the at-risk, I did mention that the legislature did lower this at-risk factor compared to the prior year. And this is a good example of how much, you know, just a little bit of a change in the multiplier, you know, dollar-wise can really start to add up. And then lastly, down here, this decrease that you see is due to us participating in K-5 in the prior year, but not having that built into our SEG going into fiscal year 22. And so that just kind of provides more of a visual line by line and putting it into dollars rather than just membership numbers, so everyone can kind of see that. So I did talk about the projected revenue being based on a preliminary unit value. We're not budgeting for growth. As far as expenditures go, when we build the budget, we really do like a top-down approach with the biggest items going in first. So we really focus on payroll and benefits. So Ryan, Cheney, Rosa, and Eric have worked very hard on the salary schedules, making sure that we're taking into account the increase in minimum wage that will take place January 1st, 2022, and you know, making sure that that's built into the budget from the beginning, and really just making sure that the salary schedules reflect that, because you know, every little change kind of just flows through the whole document. And so we start with the payroll and benefits because that is by far our largest expenditure. And then from there, we go to our fixed cost, knowing, you know, our electricity, basically the bills that we know we're going to have to pay that are pretty consistent year over year. We put those into the budget because those are things that we have to have. And then our necessary costs. And then, you know, basically the reserves, what we did from a budget standpoint, and I do want to point out to everyone is, so we balance the budget with 5% cash reserves. So we put 5% of our SEG into cash reserves. And I feel like that's a healthy balance to keep there. And that's always at the board's discretion, whether they want that to be higher or lower. I do tell my districts that, you know, a higher cash reserve is is good, but at the same time, it can be bad for when the state does need money, then it's a big target on your back and they can come in and try to take that, which was honestly what we were afraid of last year with all the uncertainty around COVID. But we do budget for a 5% cash reserve. And so we make sure we have that money put in there for a rainy day, because you never know when you'll need it. But like I said, that's totally at the board's discretion, and we can work on building that up if that's what we want to do, or but basically I do want to point out that we do balance the budget with that 5% cash reserves kind of built into that. Before we kind of talk about input, maybe like wish list or anything like that, just to kind of cover some of the mandated changes. So there was a 1.5% salary increase that was applied to all public school personnel. And so every employee is receiving a 1.5% increase to their salary. Medical health insurance increased by about 6%. The ERB employer portion went up to 15.15%. That's basically an increase of 1% compared to the current year. And then I did mention the minimum wage increase. It is going to $11.50, and that's effective January 1st, 2022. And so we do build into the budget, these required changes that we have to, that are statute, such as the 1.5% increase. And so all in all, it was difficult, because a lot of times when the state passes these increases, they don't necessarily fund it as well as they think that they do. And so, that always makes it challenging, making sure that we have the funds to do these salary increases, these mandated salary increases. But like I said before, we do have the budget pretty much wrapped up at this point. It's I think more on the federal fund side, which is really just based off of the award documents that we receive and the applications that are submitted. But from an operational standpoint, it is really close to being locked down. And so at next week's board meeting, I'll do the full presentation with the graphs and the other visuals that you can kind of see how much money is being allocated to compensation, salary and benefits, and all the different function levels. And we can kind of go over that in more detail. But I did want to just kind of give this high level to the board, let them know about the reserves that we do have budgeted. And then lastly, I guess if there is any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them, but then ultimately give everyone an opportunity to kind of give Dr. Lucas, myself and management, an opportunity to try to build in any input into the budget. And of course, we'll do the best that we can with trying to maintain those goals as far as the cash reserves, and also meeting all of the mandated changes that we have to meet. So with that, if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Brian, this is Edgar. I do have a question. Being that on the location that we are in our state, why do we not get or receive any funding for bilingual services?
No, I've always asked myself that question since I first started working with the district. But ultimately, what it comes down to is I believe having bilingual teachers and teaching. And Dr. Lucas probably could speak more on the program side.
We don't have enough students identified as bilingual needing the services. Like Deming has a lot, but we actually have very few. So in order to meet that, to get funding, we have to have quite a bit more than what we have.
Okay, thank you. And the other comment that I just had, it just doesn't make sense, 1.5% increase, but medical going up 6%. So
right.
That's 4.5%. I mean, we think we're giving out a raise, but I mean, we're not giving out a raise. They're actually wind up still spending more. So and I know that that's out of your guys's hands, but I just wanted to point that stuff out. It's sad.
Yeah, I mean, and not everyone sees that, so it's good that you see that. And it's, on our financial statements, another thing that you always see is our underfunding of our pension liability. And And ultimately, that's going to have to be remedied someday too. And just like you said, it ultimately results in less money take home, which is kind of defeats the whole purpose. But no, I totally agree.
And we invest, and we want teachers to stay with us and make a career. And it's hard. I think for our administration, Dr. Lucas, to be able to retain and I just wish there was something that we could do to make sure we're compensating our staff and just all of our teachers what they deserve and be able to make a livable wage.
Yes, sir. Any other questions or comments for Brian?
Is this a part where we give you guys a wish list, or?
Yeah.
Susie, can I talk, or would you like to go?
Well, I know each of the members has come up with a different wish list, and one of them was, of course, kind of a facelift is what we called it, right, Edgar, for RVT. We also discussed the idea of putting in playground equipment at the junior high. And we also discussed the idea of we do need to make improvements at the high school level for special ed, which is very important. As one of our students has a lot of equipment that we need to get implemented into the space. So we need a space that's suitable. And there may be a place already on campus that can be converted into that area that we can also look at. Mr. Gomez, what am I missing?
So last week we had an incident, and I think more than ever we need to focus on the safety and security of our kids. We often say it's Lordsburg, it's not going to happen, but to me, safety and security come first before anything. We need to protect our students and our staff. So high school, it should have been planned 4 years ago, 5 years ago when this school was built, but unfortunately it wasn't. But we do need a vestibule in there. We need to make sure that our staff and our students are safe. Just like Ms. Cole said, RVT, when we talk about finance and we talk about money, who's generating the majority of our revenue? When we put it in a revenue perspective, it's RVT. They have the majority of the students, they have the majority of the staff. And sometimes I see that or feel that they don't really get much. And yeah, we did call it a facelift. We need to make sure that this school is inviting, and Dr. Amador might be able to talk a little bit more about other stuff but I think that school needs to be painted.
Okay, so when you say facelift, you're talking like new paint?
Yeah, that's really where we were heading, more just a different look. It looks depressing, and that's where we have our little ones. I know that I had talked to Ms. Cole about, and Dr. Lucas knows this, water fountains. I just want to make sure for next year, I want to make sure all of our students have some type of access to water. And to me, that's very important. So just making sure that I'm not sure if those have been ordered or
they're already in. We're waiting for the summer to start installing.
Even that's amazing. That's really good. And the other thing, yes, Susie also touched base on it. DTMS. I think we forget that we still have little kids at that school, and we need to think about them. We need to think about our students with special needs and make sure, just like Ms. Cole said, that they're suitable for them to come to school, and we're providing the same education to the best of our abilities. And I think the last thing let's see, that I have something else here. Last thing, and I know I think that I've been told no before, but I I truly believe that our teachers need aid, and I think additional IAs are needed. They are needed in our schools. I think RBT needs them, and I really think I'm not sure about high school, but I'm sure that DTMS and RBT could use additional staff. So I think that those are my priorities. If I'm missing something, Alyssa, Jonah, not sure if you guys have something.
I know Mr. Barrera had mentioned to make sure that we have enough money and CARES to continue to have sanitation supplies and masks and stuff if for the upcoming school year, if we're still needing those materials. Also, our service providers for school psychologists, occupational therapists, speech pathologists, they need spaces in which to be able to work in the facilities with their students, especially like a private area. And I know some of them have a lot of equipment to go with it. So I think those are important for our special needs students and for those who receive services in the district.
Okay.
Ryan and Susie's right. I think more than ever too, I'm not sure if eventually a social worker, a full-time social worker, if could be in our schools. I think it's really needed. I think our, not just as our students need a voice, I think a social worker could also assist families and parents in having a voice. There's so much, and I understand we're not like any other district where they just have so much cash, but I mean, it's things that are needed, and I think it's our duty to voice some of these concerns.
No, Dr. Lucas and I have actually, there's a federal program where we actually budget for a social worker in next year's budget. And so I think it's something that we've talked about. Actually,
we've been trying for 2 years on a social worker, but we haven't had any applications yet.
Yeah, but no, I think this is all great. I think I'm already kind of brainstorming. You know, some of the stuff we can kind of maybe plan for, like you know, SB9. Some of our capital outlay money could maybe help with the facelift, and we can kind of look at that and see what other projects we have planned and see. And then ultimately, you know, we mentioned the CARES funds, and you know, from what I'm hearing, and hopefully everything kind of continues, you know, there should be a third round. And what I'm hearing is that the third round is supposed to be 2 to 3 times what ESSER 2 was, which would be pretty significant. And I think at that point, it would really kind of give us that opportunity to, you know, kind of maybe do something like the playground equipment or something big like that. But I guess at the end of the day, you know, one of the things is we do want to make sure that any changes we make, we're able to sustain without the CARES funds. And so
yes,
we'll be looking at that. And I think, you know, this is all good input, and you know, and the SPED for the high school, you know, I guess I'll start looking at our SPED funds, because I know that those types of things could be paid for with federal funds. And so I guess I'll try to accomplish to the best that we can the wish list, whether or not it be this year or if we can build it in with those ESSER funds. But then I guess ultimately also still maybe looking at the federal funds to see if there's a way that we can maybe work a way to kind of accomplish what everyone's wanting without tapping into the operating. That would be the best case scenario. But you know, I got some good notes, and before the presentation next week, you know, we'll meet and we'll see what we can do. And especially like things like I talked about with the growth. If we do get that growth and we do have that increase bar, with us balancing the budget with no growth, at that point, you know, we've basically covered everything we have to cover, and then that increase bar could be used for something unplanned for. Basically, is another thing to look at.
Dr. Lucas, do we have a plan to re-engage students back into our district? Have we
We've been working with Engage New Mexico, which the state has, and they contact. Yeah, I mean, and we go through and track down every student. So,
I would like to, Ms. Cole, if this is okay with you, I think I would like some efforts at the local level. I think New Mexico is really backed up just with all districts having to face these issues. And I think at the local level, we need some type of effort to re-engage us. And I'm not talking just about money, but making sure that kids are re-engaged and back into receiving an education.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important to get our kids back and re-engaged. We'll see what steps we can take to achieve that.
Hi, Susie, I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Back to the capital outlay money. Is there a way we could have a representative or senators to help us out to getting funding for our district? Or
No,
is it
definitely.
different?
I think, what I've seen and this is something as a board we can talk about, before the next legislative session, typically like late in the fall. It wouldn't be a bad idea to reach out to your local legislators, maybe have them do like a breakfast or something and tell them about the projects that we want to do or that we want to get done, because they can go in and they can fight for special appropriation money to be awarded to the district. And so I'm always pushing for that. I think legislatively, I mean, ultimately that's going to be our best bet for long-term changes. Like Edgar mentioned with the healthcare increase and the raise, communicating that type of stuff to our legislatures so that they can take that information and try to do something with it. I think, those are all, I'm always pushing for that. And I think that's a great idea. And so I'll remind everyone come in the fall before the next legislature, maybe we can tap some of our local constituents and talk to them about some of the projects we want. And worst that can happen is we don't get it, but at least we tried. And if we don't ask for it, then of course we'll never get it. So I'm always pushing for that, and I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
So,
I just don't want to step any toes, if that's something that we could do and represent our school, because I know our representative and our senator, and they're very welcoming young ladies. So, anything I could do to call one of them,
Yeah.
forward.
And if you ever need me to come in,
Yes,
just let me know.
Yeah, this is Susie. So I have spoken with Senator Diamond, and I've told her a couple of things, like I did mention, because she's the one that came to me and told me that we could put in for capital outlay monies, and that once we do, then we can ask them to say the equipment that we want for the playground at DTMS. She can put in for that, and she's willing to help us in any and every way that she possibly can. And she said she didn't realize before she came in that capital outlay monies could be used, but they had some districts that put in for it in this session that they just had, and they received the monies. And so she said, put in for them and see what we can get.
Yeah. And then I
So
had
she
another.
said make sure that we're ready once that time of year comes, so that we can have it all lined out and ready to present, so that she can lobby for that type of money for us in our district.
Yeah, and then also, I don't know if I'm going off subject like I always do, but why don't we look into getting another insurer for our staff, medical insurance? Is that possible, or is that something to be discussed on a different subject? Or
let's try and look at that for another agenda and see if maybe that's not something we can.
That does come through the New Mexico Public Insurance Authority. I mean, there's really not much choice we have.
Okay. Yeah, I was just asking. Thank you.
Dr. Lucas and Brian, not that I don't agree with you, but I think these relationships with our local stakeholders shouldn't just happen right before.
No, you're right.
I think we need to communicate that with them, Dr. Lucas, through I mean, if anything, once a month, once a quarter, let them know our efforts. With all respect to the city and the county, I still strongly believe that the city, the schools is what's keeping this community alive. And there's amazing things happening in our schools. I mean, hopefully our athletics, I mean, we're able to do more this coming year. RBT has amazing stuff going on. DTMS, I'm excited for the possibility that's there, and all the work that the teachers are doing. And I think we really need to voice these highlights out in our community, and make sure that our elected officials and local stakeholders know what we're doing. And just whatever it takes, to make sure that we're well represented, and they don't forget about us. I mean, Lordsburg is here.
Okay.
Is there any other questions on the 2021-22 budget? If there's no more questions, we'll go on to item B, discussion of special meeting for May 24th, 2021.
Right, and there's not really a lot of discussion. We just put it on there to remind you. We had to have it posted 10 days before. So just to let you know, we've set it for the 24th at 6 p.m. And then the budget is due on the 25th. So we'll get it approved that night and then submit it on the 25th.
Okay.
Does it have to be taken to Santa Fe, sir, or is that like an online thing? Do you have
It's an
enough
online.
time? Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they even did if you recall in the past, you would all sign that one document. And so they even set that up via Adobe Sign. So once we get the final approval, Eric and myself will send that out to all of you, and you can sign it electronically.
Okay. Okay, next item on the agenda is discussion of Southside property.
Yes, and just to kind of, we went out for the appraisal. We've got it back. The appraisal was at about $70,000. And so I just kind of need to get an idea of what y'all feel about it, and where you want to go with it.
I personally feel, this is Susie, that it's a great asset to the school. And I don't think it needs to be given away. I think any money that we can make off of this property, we can reinvest it into our students in our district. And it provides an extra cushion as well if there's anything that we need for our schools. If anything should happen, or we need to add it in for any issue that may arise. But I think it's more beneficial to the school to keep it and reinvest it into our district and our students.
By keep it and reinvest, you mean sell it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then take the proceeds and reinvest it into the school.
Okay.
This is Alyssa. I agree with Susie. I believe that everybody will win in my situation, county, city, and schools. If we do have a buyer, we'll have that, that tax going into us. So yeah, I agree with Susie. Thank you.
Dr. Lucas, I agree as well. It was shocking to an extent that the appraisal came down to $70,000. However, I do think that 4 years ago, it could have been worth more. I do think that we need to proceed in selling it. In the next 4 years, it may be worth even less. So our district needs the funding, and I think we need to move forward in selling it and getting the best possible outcome out there. I'm not sure what the process will be, but we need, our students and our staff could use those funds.
Yes. Okay.
I agree too. So I agree with Edgar.
Okay.
We gotta push it. I mean.
Okay, I'll start seeking approval from PED. So we do have to have approval, and then we'll put it on the agenda for next month as an action item to officially put it up for sale if that's what you choose to do.
And then
So I'm just kind of curious, and I'm not trying to overstep my. I'm just curious, has it ever been talked about, or is it even, do you think there would be any interest in leasing it to someone? Is it the lot that's over by the McDonald's?
Yes.
Because it seems like that would be, I mean, I guess I'm just curious. There's a few districts in the state that have this recurring revenue that they're able to lease stuff like this. And I guess that's the only reason I bring it up, because that recurring can add up so much more than selling. And I just wanted to bring, I don't know if anyone would, if we've ever advertised for it to be leased, but just wanted to toss that idea out.
Yeah. No, we have not advertised it. We haven't advertised it for sale or for anything. But I can put that, we can discuss that. And
I just wanted to, I mean, I support whatever the board decides, but I just wanted to say.
Ms. Cole, and I don't know if this is the time to talk about this, but I would, I guess I would ask that the appraisal costs be added to the sale of the property, so that we could get that money back.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gomez.
Yes, so can we list it for a specific amount? Is that what we're planning on doing?
Well, no, I mean, so I imagine it would come down through a realtor, or we could list it in the paper and see what kind we get. But I'll talk to Ped and talk to our attorneys and see which is the best way to go. But I would assume, you know, with a land sale, a realtor would be the best bet.
Yeah, because I'm with Edgar too. I'm tired of losing money on this deal.
Yeah. So, but if we do go with a realtor, you know, they have their fees normally about 6%.
Can we add those fees? Can the board set?
Well, you know, you can set whatever you want. Whether somebody will pay that or not is a different question. You know, because like say it's valued at 70,000, and then we add all the fees, that's going to be, so, you know, say that puts it up to 76,000. You know, is somebody going to be worth paying 76,000 or interested in paying 76,000 for a piece of property that's worth 70,000?
Ms. Cole, would we be able to do like a bid process, like a sealed bid process, and see if there's any large corporations or anyone that might be able to do like a cash sell where we would not lose out in those realtor fees? I'm just trying to get the best deal possible for our district.
Yeah, I think we could go out for sealed bid. You know, and we've had one offer already, and that was for 50,000. And that was before the appraisal.
I mean, I think we can look at every avenue and see where it.
Yeah, I mean, well,
and that way see what is the best outcome for the district.
Yeah, I'll gather more information and find out what our alternatives are and what all we can do, and then we'll discuss it and take action at the June board meeting.
Dr. Lucas, one more question. Would us not having this property reduce our insurance costs?
No, it will not. We've already checked into that. Yeah.
In general? Not for this year or just in general?
Just in general. We've already checked with our insurers. You know, there was buildings and stuff on it, then yes, but just the property, it's just, we just have property insurance. It doesn't really matter how much property we have.
Okay. Even with the goals, Dr. Lucas? Even with the basketball goals there?
Yeah, all the equipment and stuff, no, because we checked with our insurance. They said it would not make a difference on our premium.
Okay, and there's only one insurance, that's through the state again, is that correct?
Pardon me?
There's only one option for an insurance company, right? That's
right, New Mexico Public Schools Insurance Authority, right?
Okay. All right, so thank you.
If there's any, I know you already have a lot on your plate, but if there's any efforts that you could make in trying to suggest or by the next board meeting, the best possible outcome, whether it's through a bid, through a realtor, if Ms. Cole, you're okay with that, I think that would be my suggestion.
Probably the first, I would guess, but again, I still have to check to verify that we can legally do it, would be the sealed bid, because we can reject any and all bids if they don't come in where we think they should be. They can be rejected by the board, and then we can try a different route.
Okay. That sounds good.
but I'll check on the legality of that and make sure we can do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no more discussion on the south side property, we'll go on to action items, discussion and possible action on the school calendar.
Right, you have the draft of the school calendar there. And it puts teachers starting August 2nd. Classes begin that Friday, August 6th. And that's just, so you can get books issued and stuff like that and get them a first day weekend off and then start back the Monday through Thursday the next week.
Okay.
And it's basically the same calendar as we had this year.
Is there any questions on the school calendar? There's no questions. I will entertain a motion to accept the 2021-2022 school calendar as presented.
I'll make the motion, Ms. Cole.
Motion made by Mr. Gomez. May I get a second?
I'll second it, Susie.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Barrera. Roll call. Mr. Barrera?
Aye.
Mrs. Esquivel?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Next item is discussion and approval of open meetings resolution.
Right, we do this every May and it just basically describes our process for our board meetings. It says it'll be held the third Monday of each month at 6 p.m. And it's just basically our procedures. We do it every year. And it goes through regular meetings, special meetings, emergency meetings, and closed meetings. And that has to be approved by the board.
If there's no questions on the open meetings resolution, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution as written.
I'll make the motion, Ms. Cole.
Motion by Mr. Gomez. May I get a second?
I'll second that.
Motion by Mrs. Esquivel. Roll call, Mr. Barrera?
Aye.
Mrs. Esquivel?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Next item is discussion and possible action on policy advisories.
Yes, so we have 5 advisories that came out of this legislative session. We'll have more next month as well. But the first one, number 210, involves student discipline. And let's see. So this is like, it prohibits discrimination on, headdress, hairstyles, and stuff like that on policy advisory 210. 211, on policy 211, the only changes that were made, they added a legal reference and a cross reference. And then on 212, another same thing, legal reference, they added, it adds by way of definitions, discriminatory offenses by way of definitions. And that's on policy advisory number 212, policy AC. And then policy advisory number 213, discipline, suspension, termination, and discharge of professional staff. It adds the requirement that it adds a prohibition against racialized aggression in reference to the link to a statewide hotline for reporting were added to this professional staff discipline policy. So again, it's adding racialized aggression is, that can't be considered, people have a right to report that if they believe that is occurring in their disciplinary actions. And the same thing with the next one, 214, it's discipline, suspension, termination, and discharge of support staff. It adds the same thing. First one was professional staff, this one's support, no racialized aggression, and then reference to a link to a statewide hotline for reporting these types of violations. And that is all of them this month. Are there any questions? I went through them pretty quick. The biggest one that's really changed is 210, the first one, because that added no discrimination, like no, hair color, hairstyle, native headdress, anything like that cannot be used for disciplinary actions or being against dress code or anything like that.
I actually like that, sir, to an extent. I think a lot of parents and students in our community felt that our dress style is a little bit, or policy is a little bit too strict. And I think a lot of kids should have the opportunity to express themselves as long as it's not offensive to other staff members or other students. So I don't have any issues.
Okay.
If there's no other questions or comments regarding the policy advisories, I'll entertain a motion to approve the policy advisories 210, 211, 212, 213, and 214 as presented to the board.
I'll make that motion, Ms. Cole.
Okay, motion by Mr. Gomez. May I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion seconded by Mr. Barrera. Roll call, Mr. Barrera.
Aye.
Mrs. Esquivel,
Aye.
Mr. Gomez,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Okay. With all business of the board having been taken care of,